friends, and welcome back to my second ever YouTube video. I posted my last one 2 weeks ago, and as soon as I hit post, it's like I got this high and I wanted to keep making YouTube videos. So I know I said I'd see you next month, but surprise, we're here 2 weeks later, and maybe this is the cadence we're gonna go at, is every 2 weeks, because I had a lot of fun doing that. And if you haven't seen it yet, my last YouTube video was about overcoming fear and how I let fear hold me back a lot as an artist. Also, I should say, if we haven't met yet, I'm Hannah Vega. I'm a full-time wood burning artist, and I've been doing it for about 5 years. But in this video, I wanted to answer a really frequently asked question, and that is, how did I start wood burning? How long have I been doing it for? And kind of what got me here? Whenever I get asked that question, I have a really hard time answering it because I feel like it's just not something that can be answered in a one sentence thing. It's a lot. I feel like it's discrediting 2 decades of my life that actually brought me here. So I figured, let's dive into it. And while I talk to you about my life and how I became a full-time wood burning artist, we're going to actually wood burn my next two pieces, Dawn Study and Dusk Study. 6 years ago, I drove with my best friend to Montreal to get tattoos. For perspective, this is a 6-hour drive from where we live in southeastern Ontario. But it was worth it because we were, and still are, both completely obsessed with this artist's work and continue to make the trek over once every year or so. Shout out Helem, aka Lawrence, at Great Market. We pulled up in Montreal at 9 p.m., stayed the night in our Airbnb, woke up the next morning and likely got bagels and iced coffee, and then drove over to the tattoo studio in Hochelaga, Montreal. You might be wondering, what on earth does this have to do with you starting photography? Well, upon walking in, not only were we greeted by the sweetest human to exist, but hung up on her walls were massive, intricate wood burning she done on gorgeous live edge wood. They were adorned with actual elements of nature pasted into the designs, like real ferns and dried flowers, splashes of color from pastels, just insane work that took you to a different world entirely. I'd never seen anything like it, especially not in wood burning. I had no idea one could wood burn like this. All I'd ever seen before was small text on things like charcuterie boards and laser designs, which, no shame to, it was just never introduced to me as a fine art form. I ogled at her work all afternoon, and it felt like something that had been slumbering in me for a long time finally fired up. So, if you came to this video to just learn about how I discovered wood burning as something I wanted to try, you have your answer. But if you want to learn about the journey before this, stick around for a bit. I've loved creating art my whole life. My mom says ever since I could hold a pencil, I was drawing. Albeit, I don't think I was born gifted, which is a whole other topic to discuss. I do think I had a natural inclination towards art. Whenever I saw someone painting, drawing, just creating cool things, I wanted to try it too. Throughout grade school, art class was hands down my favorite time of the week. I get so excited to work on whatever we were given that day, and when I got home, I was usually delaying actual homework to make something. You would definitely catch me falling asleep during math class, but as soon as the bell rang and we could head over to the art room, I was sprinting. My mom and dad are both creatives. My dad is very hands-on and can build whatever he envisions in his head, and my mom can draw and paint extremely well, and as a side hustle back in the day, she used to be commissioned to paint delicate and whimsical designs in her clients' children's bedrooms. I remember being very young when she was doing this, probably around 6 years old, and I loved getting to come with her to the job and watch her paint. Throughout high school, art continued to be my favorite subject, and it showed. I quickly became recognized for my talents and known as quote-unquote the art kid. In grade 12, I was invited to be what my high school called a path leader. I have actually no recollection of what that stood for, but what it entailed was being an assistant to a teacher for a freshman class in the subject that you're excelled in. Can you guess what mine was? This experience helped me discover that I actually really enjoyed teaching art and helping others achieve artistic tasks and goals. There was a lot of pressure in our final year of high school to pick a career path, and going to university just seemed like what everyone who wanted to succeed in life was doing. So I applied to 3 universities with the intention of pursuing studies that would help me become an art therapist. I got accepted into each university for their psychology program and ended up registering at the University of Waterloo. Unbeknownst to me, the next year of my life would be heavily math-oriented. Why? Because this was an arts and business program, one that I did very little research on before applying. This first year handed me my ass. I'm absolutely terrible at math, as a very stereotypical art kid would be, and this program involved a lot of economics and accounting classes, which were, of course, numbers. Living on campus surrounded by partying friends didn't help my focus either, and all those peers, mind you, seemed to be thriving in their academics and unbothered. By the second semester, I'd flunked out of the program, demoted to picking a major. This brought on a lot of shame because my peers were all in their arts and business program, moving on to their co op placements for the summer, and then there was me, working on the weekends to pay $40,000 in 4 years of tuition to study fine art, the field that is notoriously laughed at to be a waste of money and bring you no future income. If you have any understanding of Canadian universities, you'd know that University of Waterloo is known to be the top engineering school. And sitting amongst all those massive engineering buildings, way in the very back, was Waterloo's hidden gem, the Faculty of Fine Arts. This program was phenomenal and had so many different courses to choose from each year. I pledged to myself that I'd try out as many mediums as I could, such as oil painting, sculpture, metalwork, printmaking. I even got to take a course where we collaborated with engineering students to make sculptures with kinetics, motion sensors, and coding. This whole experience actually opened my eyes to a world of art that I didn't know existed. I got to work alongside incredible professors and artists, and while this program brought its own challenges, I was really happy that my decisions had brought me here. So it was the final few months of my undergrad, and my fourth year class was sitting in the lecture room, where one of the professors was giving us all a rundown of what our futures would entail after leaving the fine arts program. He outlined job routes we could take, discussed applying for Masters of Fine Arts, talked about becoming gallery curators, and the very limited other career paths. And then the room fell silent as he told us all that it would be highly unlikely that we could make a living as a practicing artist. I somehow simultaneously felt my heart sink, but also had a little ball of fire in my chest saying, let's try anyways. A part of me still believed him, though, and this created a sense of doubt that I'd carry with me for a while. With that said, I do think one of the times where I was the most inspired to potentially create a living with my art was when we had a guest speaker come to campus, and she goes by Boku and she does punch noodling for a living. And it was just so inspiring to hear her story and kind of awoke something in me that I didn't think was an option just because of what everyone had told me throughout the years. So I put that thought in my back pocket. I graduated university with my BFA in specialization in intensive studio practice and was recognized for my growth in the program with an award. I immediately started serving full time. The money was decent, but I was fully miserable. I struggled to feel inspired to create after school for the first year after I did absolutely nothing related to art. With this, I constantly wondered, is this all there is to me then? Am I going to wait on tables and cry at home later because a customer was mean to me about their soggy fries? It wasn't a good time. I decided to apply for an art instructor opening at Oakville Galleries and got the job. It turned out to be so much fun, but it didn't offer enough work to fully support me. So, on top of still serving part time, I'd soon have a second position at the gallery working as an exhibition attendant. Not so fun. Incredibly boring, actually, and made me second guess any desire to work in the gallery world. But this was still an opportunity to learn. I got to meet various artists, talk to curators, and learn a little bit more about their lives. In the fall of 2019, one of my favorite professors from university, Lois Anderson, emailed me to let me know there was an open call for an artist residency near me in Mississauga at the Living Arts Center. I applied and was thrilled to have gotten through the interview. I officially had my own little studio space that I could work into my heart's demise for a year. In this time, I worked on graphite drawings and sculpture with copper wire, occasionally participating in group exhibitions, including Gladstone Hotel's Grow Up exhibition, which at this point was one of the highlights of my artistic life. It was my first time creating a full body of work, very installation focused, and was then exhibited in one of the hallways in the historic hotel. Around this time is also when my friend and I had taken our first road trip out to Montreal, and I'd also recently applied and gotten into another artist residency for the following year, which was all the way in Tasmania, to take place in summer of 2020. And we all know what happened earlier that year. COVID pandemania swept over and the wave I was riding crashed. I didn't want to leave the house, like many of us, and this took a hit on my creative pursuits and inspiration. Big time. After months of pouring hundreds of hours into Animal Crossing and wasting my days on the couch, I decided to go to the art store and buy some gouache paints, something I'd never tried before. And I instantly really enjoyed the medium. I painted flowers on my balcony, the stormy skies over the ocean from a trip a few years back, and day by day inspiration resurfaced. It was a quiet moment where I wasn't creating for a class or a residency or any audience and just let it flow. I didn't need to explain why or what I was making, I just did it. Drawing and painting things of the natural world healed a little part of me and also helped me connect more with what I knew I loved to create. Things finally opened up again, and almost immediately my friend Liv and I packed up the car and drove back to Montreal the following summer. We met with our favorite tattoo artist, and I was back admiring her work while Liv got tatted up. I worked up the courage to ask Lawrence where she gets her wood, to which she said she goes to a local wood shop. On the drive back home, I was utterly confused and also so inspired to start something. Where the hell am I supposed to find a wood shop near me? And what wood burning system am I supposed to get? I had so many questions, and as soon as I got home, I did some research, found someone on Facebook Marketplace called Sawmill Sam, and drove 30 minutes down the road to walk into this overwhelmingly large wood shop. I had zero idea what I was looking for, so I told Sawmill Sam that I was going to start wood burning, and to my luck, he had tried to do some himself, and he directed me to the maple section. Sitting on the floor was this beautiful little slab of live-edged curly maple for $25. So I drove home with that piece, no idea what I was to do with it, and I hadn't even bought a wood burning kit yet. I let that wood sit in my room for 2 months before finally ordering a cheap wood burning pen. I sat down at my kitchen table, a 2-foot slab of wood sitting in front of me, turned on the burner and started to draw what was supposed to resemble little line flowers. And what a humbling experience this was. This felt like I was learning to draw all over again. I swear 5-year-old me would have done a better job. The result I got was bumpy, dotted lines for flowers and a cramping hand because the thing was so incredibly hard to hold. I was scared to post this first attempt on my Instagram account, but I did. And I was surprised to see my friends and family, who were my only audience at the time, jump to the gun when I asked for some suggestions of what to burn on the slab next. I decided to compile all their ideas in one design, and it turned out to be the best challenge and practice for myself. This is my first ever wood burning that I'm talking about. As you can see, it is quite the compilation of elements. You have a flamingo that Liv suggested, a tree of life, which is the whole design. Someone suggested boobs, and mountains, leaves, a tree, a mushroom, not an Alfie. So yeah. I don't quite know how to explain it, but before I started wood burning, if someone were to tell me, come up with a composition for a drawing off the top of your head, I'd be completely lost. I never felt creative enough just to make something. I know it sounds silly because I've been a practicing artist for 2 decades now, but I always needed reference or another artist's work to kind of fuel inspiration and design. And when I started wood burning, it was suddenly like I just knew what I wanted to draw. Of course, I still needed reference photos that either myself or my client provided or stock images, but I slowly began to learn to build and create compositions that were truly mine from my own head. To my surprise, not long after this first piece, friends started to reach out asking for custom work. This felt awkward for me at first. I think I did go into this with the intention of making an income from it, but I wasn't expecting it to start right away and had a tough time knowing what on earth to charge people for something I was just learning to do. But I wasn't just learning how to do it. I'd had years on years of artistic experience that brought me here, and people trusted in my abilities to make something unique for them. So here's where it snowballed into a side hustle. Don't forget, I was still serving, now full time because I'd left the art gallery due to various reasons. Working in a restaurant actually aided me in growing my business because I interacted with so many people each day. So through telling coworkers and patrons what I do on the side, I'd get the occasional client for a commission. I'd hand out my business card when people asked, and before I knew it, I was getting emails from people I knew, but also their friends and friends of their friends, and through posting more consistently on social media, sharing my growth and my wood burning abilities, people I had no connection to were reaching out from different countries. After a couple years of doing a large number of commissions, I started to work on some pieces that were more of my original art. I made my first series that I'd call Overgrowth, and it was a really explorative practice that let me play with elements of nature I loved: mushrooms, wildlife, plants, flowers, even mythical creatures like mermaids and nymphs. I sold that collection out over time, and it was so rewarding to hear how each piece resonated with the clients that found them. I felt like each piece ended up with who it was destined for. So I fell in love with this, creating original work that was what I felt my soul needed to make. And seeing my growing audience on social media resonate and enjoy watching my processes was so rewarding. In the mix of all this, getting hundreds of messages saying that I've inspired someone to start wood burning has actually brought me more joy than I expected. And it's something I'll never get sick of hearing. I picture someone like me in 2020 thinking, where the heck do I begin here? And I get so excited for the journey they're about to embark on. Mid 2024, I was fed up with putting my passions on the side burner to still work at the restaurant a couple nights a week. It was extremely draining, and I'd wake up with no energy to create. And ultimately, I knew what I wanted to do. So I worked up the courage and I quit my job to work on my business. It's been a year and a half of being a full-time artist, and that journey could be a whole other video, and it will be. For now, I can tell you that it certainly wasn't all uphill, but I have zero regret for taking the leap. So there we have it. So much has happened in the past 5 years, and I've had many ups and downs. Lots of which that actually weren't even mentioned in this video, just because I feel like I could sit here for an hour talking about each and every detail that I went through. You know what? You got the gist of it. And everyone's story is different. Your journey is going to look a lot different than mine, but I'm so proud of myself for have taken this path, and I'm really excited to see where it takes me next. And I honestly don't think I'd be here right now doing art full-time, recording a YouTube video talking about my life as a full-time artist if I hadn't experienced any part of the past. And I especially wouldn't have gotten here if I didn't have my parents at my back every step of the way. They never discouraged me from pursuing fine arts as a career, even with the common thought that arts isn't going to make you money, and one that I was told frequently as well by, teachers and peers. My parents had faith in me. And I think that we all knew that I wasn't going to do anything but something art related, and it's what brought me joy. And they've only ever done careers that are to do with their passions and that bring them joy in some way. So I think that I had a good influence, I would say. So I hope this helped you. And if you are an artist embarking on your journey, and no matter where you're at in it, if you are just starting, if you have been woodburning or doing painting or whatever it is that you're doing for a couple years now, and you're like, do I make this a full-time thing? Do I quit my job? I could make a video on that. I think like knowing when to leave and how to leave and what do you got to do, and things that maybe I wish I knew before I decided to jump ship of my job stability. Yeah, it's been it's been a journey, and that's a whole other video. And thank you if you've gotten this far and listening to my life, and I'll see you next time. 2 Fridays from now. I got some good stuff coming. So I'm Hannah Vega, and I will see you next time. Oh, and don't forget, if you liked this video, if it taught you something, if you want to see my videos again, subscribe and you'll get a little notification next time I post. Bye. Love you.